Hello, Rob.
Yeah, sir.
Hmm.
Okay, so sir is here. I can introduce him to my students.
Yeah.
And thank you, sir, for taking out this time and delivering such a user. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I can hear them.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So hello, everybody, and thank you for joining this online webinar that is being conducted today. So the topic of discussion today is understanding IR theories from the current global perspective. Before I hand over the rein to our chief speaker, let me introduce our guest and provide some background information about him. Ms. Dr. Debashish Mitra is an assistant professor and HOD of Political Science Department at Fakir Chand College, West Bengal, Kolkata. He is currently received a postdoctoral fellowship from the Korean Foundation Field Research Fellowship in 2019. He has authored many papers, and some of his works are Artificial Intelligence and Political System, Human Rights from an Alternative Viewpoint, and South Asia and Democracy. Sir has even presented papers in seminars and conferences and even chaired the session at national and international seminar. Sir has published around 15 publications in his name. I would like to thank DM Sir for taking time out of his schedule for us, and we are looking forward to hear you, sir, on this current global perspective and your viewpoints. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you all. And thank you, Rahat, for giving me this opportunity to put my views regarding the current situation and taking all the perspective into one context. And thank you all for who has already participated or are going to join this webinar. About the things that I have for this specifically for this webinar, I have specifically given Rahat two of my videos in the YouTube just to have a feel about that what we will be speaking about. We will not be keep ourselves within the entire chain of this theoretical ranges. For example, the theoretical ranges that start within the perspective of, say, for example, from 1919 to till date, there are a whole lot of theories and whole ranges of theories. And those ranges and theoretical backgrounds basically is the terms that are being used to express various sorts of events, various sorts of issues, and in many and varied disciplinary order. Similarly, for example, if there is a political science, as you all may be from that background, so in that case, the political science has developed its own course for the last 2000 years. And going through that development, there are various fields and debates and notions which has eventually helped the discipline to understand not only the effectiveness of the discipline, I mean the political science, but also to understand our society, also to understand we as a human being, and specifically at this point of time when we are all locked up in our homes, in our own places, still we are managing our time, still we are doing some productive work, how we are doing our productive work, how we are forging our relationship with each other as a human being, that constitutes the entire point of discussion. That means what I want to mean is that these theories are there. These theories are there in paper. These theories are important for the people to make some kind of a what should I say, instrumentalization of the entire society. But apart from these theories, there are incidents, there are events, there are issues which needs to be connected with those theoretical backgrounds. So two things get very important at the very starting point. Number one is that whether we actually, as because we are from this discipline, we are from this background, whether we actually know how we should want to realize the entire society. That's the very basic first point. That's why theory becomes important. But alone theory being only, or the theory alone cannot help us or provide us anything to construct in the real world, because real world is a different concept. The theoretical background is a different concept. But we being coming from the background of this social science, we need to understand what exactly is the matter that has to be understood within this studying this international relations. So let me put the framework of analysis first. That's what we are going to do. For example, this study of international relations began as a theoretical discipline. Okay, two of the foundational texts in this field are very important. Why I am doing so, why I'm saying so, because I think that you people have already taken the notes of the videos. Whatever things that I prefer to say in the courses of understanding the theories are already been at least heard, at least you have heard the things. So what I'm trying to say is that two of the foundational texts in the field, for example, E.H. Kerr's The 20 Years Crisis, that was first published in 1939, and the Hans Morgenthau's, I think you have heard about Morgenthau's. Morgenthau's work on the politics among nations, that was first published in 1948, were works of the theory in three central respects. Each developed a broad framework of analysis which distilled the essence of international politics from disparate events. For example, there are various events that has already happened within this 1939 and within this 1948. The very basic things that, or the very basic event that happened is World War II. All of you, I suppose you know about it. Still, if you take the entire century at together in one place, the three most important things, or the three most important events that took place, that is World War I, 1919, World War II, 1939, and if not important, but not important as the, there are also events like the Vietnam War, there are also events like oil crisis, there are events like or rather the Middle East problems, Iraq war, I mean US invasion on Iraq war. These are the important events. And according to these important events, each of them, I mean the theoretical positions, each of them tried to develop and tried to redevelop their own notions, their own concepts according to the events that took place. This is just in contrast with whatever we see in cases of other social sciences, mind it. In other social sciences, there has been, or there had been, in both the cases, there are events which has preceded the theoretical point, or the vice versa. The theoretical points has already been there and the event has taken place. So these are the two things which I tried to point it out, and taking those things, I want to say that each of the theoretical frameworks, they developed a broader framework of analysis which distilled some kind of essence in international politics from disparate events that I already told you. Each sought to provide future analysis. Mind it, that is also very important. They tried to provide, they tried to give us some kind of a future analytical senses, barring the idealistic notion or the idealistic theory, which has sought to give some kind of a prescription. Why I am saying so? Because idealism, or rather some of the other scholars have stated it as an utopian liberalism. They asked, or they stated, the utopian liberals, they stated that the peace is a constant thing, and anything which is there beyond peace is to be taken as an aberration. And to maintain peace, there should be an universal organization, and they termed this universal organization as the League of Nations. If you know, if you heard about it, the League of Nations, they have instilled in that. But the League of Nations also failed. What came up? Came up the idea of realism. And this idea of realism has instilled some kind of a theoretical tools for understanding those general patterns, underlining or underlining or seemingly unique episodes, and each reflected on the forms of political action which were most appropriate in a realm in which the struggle for power was preeminent. That is the most important thing. That is, everybody want to have some kind of a power shift or a power backing, that is most important in international politics. That is why that I already told you, that is why the most important part is that there is a shift in the focus of each and every theoretical understanding. For example, if realism has its own point of view on power, it has shifted to neo realism or structural realism. Why is that? It is because of the fact, because realism understood the very notion that it is not only the power, it is not only the state, it is also the structural point of the state, or the structural idea of the state or the system also become important. Similar happened to liberalism. Liberalism also found that the ideal notion of liberalism, or the ideal notion of liberalism, can be said in a form of that liberalism, supposedly, liberalism says so, that liberalism believes in the human behavior, in the individual relationship, in cooperation, in peace, and that is the very basic of liberalism. But it has also been taken as a form of aberration, where liberalism, the liberal theorists understood that within a change in the shift, within the change in the events, their point of view has also to be changed. And there comes neoliberal aspects. And there comes the idea of this various shifting of power. And this various shifting of power, each reflected on the forms of political action which were most appropriate in the time in which the struggle for power was there. Hence wise, all the thinkers were motivated by the desire to correct what they saw. That's the very basic point. All of them, all the theorists, all the group, all the school of thoughts, they have the desire to correct what they saw as a deep, you can say, misunderstanding about the nature of international politics lying at the heart of every project. Every project, I mean, every liberal project, every realist project, every constructivist project, every sort of project, even the feminist project, even nowadays, which is very fashionable, which is very vogue in nowadays, it's called the environmental politics. They also think that there should be some kind of a shift about the entire notion of what they think about the current scenario of international politics. That is why there is a change in the term. If you look at my video in the first video that I gave you, that they don't say about themselves as an environmental theorists in IR. They say that they are green politics or green theorists or the greenest to say. Why? Because they think that there is a line of difference between environmentalism and green politics. So there lies the attempt to nurture its own theory on the basis of the current political scenario. And this current political scenario has given the entire lot of this theoretical backgrounds a newer perspective. And that is why this pandemic, this COVID-19 pandemic, which I will not say a new to humankind, because as you all know, by the help or by the grace of the social media, that this after every 100 years, in every century, we face this kind of pandemics. But this pandemic has its own few of specialization which was not there earlier, supposedly in 1919 pandemic in Europe, or in 1817 pandemics in Europe, and supposedly all those years. So whatever is that, the entire thinkers of they sort that they have some kind of a misunderstanding, and within, or rather from that misunderstanding, they need to construct a deeper theoretical premises of international politics and event. Okay, but we have taken two names. We have taken the name of Carr, we have taken the name of Morgenthau. It is not that Morgenthau and Carr thought the international political system was condemned for all time to revolve around the relentless struggle. It is not like that. Relentless struggle for power and security. They just want to put, or rather their main claim was that all efforts to reform the international system which ignored the struggle for power would quickly end in failure. So they are not giving some kind of a prescription which was not there earlier. There was, but there were attempts from the other side. For example, the utopian liberals, they attempt to overlook or not to look into the power system of the state. It is not that the realists were the first time, or the Morgenthau or Carr was the first time they saw this power. It is not like that. Before Morgenthau and Carr, it has been, we all know about this, the fact that there was in the ideas of the Greek political thought, there was Thucydides and there is Machiavelli, not in Greek political sense, but in Machiavelli in the medieval period. We have already seen that. But whatever Carr and Morgenthau thought about, that this power promotion of the state, that need to be emphasized to understand international politics, to understand state, to understand relationship between the state and its other units, which has been overlooked by the liberal theorists or utopian liberal theorists or the idealists. They just overlooked it. What I'm trying to say is that my main focus is that at an every epoch or at an every decade, this has happened. And this time, I don't know. This is all my conjecture. Whatever we are thinking, whatever we are going to understand, or whatever we are going to say, until and unless we come over this kind of a serious worldwide, globally affected pandemic, we will not be able to understand what the actual phase was. Till it also happened in 1919 or 1817. Till we recover from the entire period, we would not be able to understand at that point of time also and this point of time also. Just similar to the things that happened just after 2 years, after the pandemic of 17, 18, just after 2 years, another major event took place. And that event, what I am trying to mention is World War I took place, and World War I entirely abolished the memory of this pandemic, plague pandemic that took place in Spain, Europe, in Spain, France, I mean the entire Europe. Entire memory has been abolished. We cannot even remember what has happened or what had happened in 1917-18 plague pandemic. Why? Because another major event took place. That event was World War I. And what the liberals or utopian liberals came with, or the idealists came with, they came up with the idea or the notion of state cooperation, human individual level cooperation. And for that, they stated the idea of a worldwide organization based on cooperation, peace, and security. But what happened on 1930, or rather 1939? It failed. League of Nations failed. That's why World War II happened. What happened to that one? After that, realists came to the entire thing and they just changed the focus. That is the main basic point I'm trying to put it. They tried to change the focus of the thinking capacity of the people who were thinking on the basis or on the aspects of international relations or international politics. They just changed the entire scenario of human cooperation, human behavior, state cooperation to the system of power and power analysis. Their major focus point was, I've already shown in the video, their major focus point was state, one. Two, their major focus point was state-centric power regulation. Their major focus point was that it is the anarchy which is prevalent in human nature, human behavior, state, and society. And to defend this kind of anarchy, a state must be powerful to defend oneself. So the focus was changed. Again, after 20 years, after the start of the Cold War, the focus again changed to some kind of other patterns, which is known as behavioralism. I will not go into this entire history of debates, history of theories of IR. I will come to the very basic point which I am trying to pin into. But before going into the basic points of the current scenario, I just want to make this point very clearly to you all, that the international politics that happened all over the years from the days of human beings, it was there. But the theoretical propositions which were being made are being made on the basis of the events that turned, that changed the entire propositional system of the theoretical arguments of international relations theorists. That's what I am trying to focus. Why I am trying to focus this one? Because whatever situation there was till this pandemic happened, and whatever the situation will be after this pandemic gets over, these, according to, this is just my personal opinion, this will have a change in the course of theoretical understanding of IR as a discipline. Because to me, there will be some kind of a shift. One, not in a fundamental kind, not in a fundamental nature. By fundamental nature, I want to mean, if I put this one as a question pattern, if I put this one as a questionnaire type, if I question someone, for example, say, will the relationship between US or China end? Will the hegemony of US will end? Will the world will see a rise of new superpowers? Will there be a multipolar world? I hope you know what is the meaning of multipolar world. That means poles which have equal powers so that they can balance within themselves. Will the world see that kind of a polarity within the framework of this international politics? So that was the basic moot, or rather the moot point, which I want to focus you, or which I want to delve in, that whatever has happened before the pandemic and whatever will happen, there must be some kind of a change in the course of action of the international relation theorists. Now, why I'm trying to say that there will be a change or there will not be a change, I don't know. I'm just conjecturing the entire thing. But the point is that this pandemic has some kind of an effect which was not there, as I told you earlier, which was not there in 1919. 1919, the global politics, the technological importance or the technological superiority, it was not like that. The global politics hasn't seen much range of development apart from the state sovereignty. That means the states are supreme, they will take their own decisions. There are no other actors beyond the state, not only within the state, outside the state periphery also. There are not so many. Why so many? There are no other actors which are there within the purview of the international politics. There is only one notion which was there in international politics, that is state. It is the state. It is the Peloponnesian idea of the state, the idea which came up with from the Peloponnesian War 1648. It is that idea of the state. It is the idea of the sovereignty of the state, which ultimately matters at the end of the day. I am talking about 1990. But during the course of time, this has changed. During the course of these 100 years, this has changed. Changed in the sense of that state is not only the single course of unit, or rather the single point of unit that should be discussed. There are also non-state actors. There are even categories within the non-state actors. For example, there are a newer concept. I don't know whether you people are accustomed with that or not. That there is a concept of sub-national actors, sub-national actors, SNA. As we have already heard about MNC, multinational corporations, you know about it. But this is a concept of subnational actors. What do you mean by subnational actors? We haven't heard about subnational actors just before 10 years. Forget about 100 years. We haven't heard about subnational actors. Now, what is that subnational actors is all about? International relations, international political discussions, these political theories, they talk about these subnational actors. Subnational actors are nothing but they are part of the federal structure. For example, I'm just citing an example to make you understand better that just last year, 2019, when there is a discussion regarding the health issues with health issues, not this pandemic issue, there is a health bill related issue with Britain. Then California governor, you know his name, Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was the California governor. He asked the then Prime Minister of Britain to sign a deal with California state, mind it, not to sign a deal with the United States of America. But United States of America's federal structure gives that kind of a liberty to the respective states to sign or move into a treaty to other nation states, not on behalf of the United States, but on behalf of their respective states to sign any kind of accordance without limiting the federal laws. In that case, Mr. Schwarzenegger, he signed a health bill treaty with the then Prime Minister of UK and came into a pact that there should be a kind of a relief to both of them, and even he put some of the British executive and legislative members in California Health Advisory Board. And this role of this California state is being defined as a sub-national actors. They are not national or state actors, but they can act as similar to that or as in line with power to that of the state actors. But they are not state, but they are acting similar to that of the state. And that's why a concept arose as a sub-national actors. This kind of concepts was not there while it was 1919. But remember, California was there, United States was there, Britain was there. But we, or rather, the event didn't happen. On the other hand, we didn't have the opportunity to get into a theoretical consideration such as this subnational actors. So that's what I'm trying to make it out, or that's what I'm trying to focusing you people on, that there are subnational actors, there are actors which are beyond the purview of the state, which was not there in 1919. One. Two,